Have you ever wondered why? Despite doing everything right, life feels like it's constantly getting harder. It's as if you're running on a treadmill, expending so much energy but never moving forward. The truth is, there are certain habits you've likely embraced without even realizing it that are silently making life more difficult than it needs to be. These habits aren't just inconveniences, they're stealthy saboteurs that undermine your happiness, productivity, and peace of mind. So today, we're going to expose these habits for what they really are, barriers to your growth and well-being. If you're tired of feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or like you're constantly fighting an uphill battle, then stick around, because what you're about to discover could be the game changer you've been waiting for. 1. Holding on to negative emotions. Let's kick things off with a habit that's so common, it's almost considered normal: holding on to negative emotions. Whether it's anger, envy, guilt, or sadness, we all have moments where we cling to these feelings like they're some kind of twisted comfort blanket. But here's the deal, these emotions are like poison. Holding on to them doesn't punish the person who wronged you, it punishes you. Now think about it when you replay that argument in your head. Who's the one suffering? It's not the other person. It's you. Negative emotions are part of life, sure, but they're meant to be fleeting. They're like a storm that blows in, does its damage, and then leaves. But if you hold on to these emotions, you're essentially inviting the storm to stay indefinitely. Imagine trying to grow a beautiful garden while constantly watering the weeds. That's what happens when you feed negative emotions. They grow, they spread, and they choke out the good things in your life. So how do you break free? Start by acknowledging the emotion. Don't deny it or suppress it, just recognize that it's there. Then, rather than feeding it with more negative thoughts, consciously decide to let it go. It might not happen overnight, but with practice, you can train your mind to release these toxic feelings more quickly. 2. The spotlight effect. Ever send a message and then spent the next hour obsessing over why you haven't received a reply? Maybe you start wondering if you said something wrong or if the other person is mad at you. This is what psychologists call the spotlight effect, where you believe that everyone is paying close attention to you and your actions. But here's the reality. They're not. Most people are so wrapped up in their own lives that they barely notice what you're doing. Think about it. How often do you scrutinize every little thing someone else says or does? Probably not as often as you think others do to you. This habit of imagining that everyone is watching your every move isn't just exhausting, it's debilitating. It creates unnecessary stress, anxiety, and even paranoia, which all lead to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. Breaking this habit starts with a shift in perspective. The next time you catch yourself worrying about how others perceive you, remind yourself that most people are too busy with their own lives to be focused on yours. By letting go of this unnecessary self-consciousness, you'll free up a ton of mental energy that can be better spent on things that actually matter. 3. The all or nothing trap. We've all heard the phrase, if you're going to do something, do it right, or don't do it at all. Sounds like good advice, right? But in reality, this kind of black and white thinking is a one-way ticket to frustration and failure. This is the all or nothing trap. It's the belief that if something isn't perfect, it's worthless. And let me tell you, perfectionism isn't just unrealistic, it's paralyzing. Here's why life is messy. It's full of gray areas and imperfect outcomes. When you insist on perfection, you're setting yourself up for constant disappointment, because let's face it, nothing is ever truly perfect. Whether it's a project at work, a fitness goal, or even a relationship, aiming for perfection can lead you to abandon the whole thing the moment it doesn't meet your impossibly high standards. Instead of striving for perfection, aim for progress. Progress allows you to acknowledge your efforts, learn from your mistakes, and keep moving forward. It's about recognizing that every small step counts and that perfection is not the goal, growth is. By letting go of the need to be perfect, you'll find that you actually achieve more, feel better about yourself, and enjoy the journey a whole lot more. 4. Procrastination on important decisions. Let's talk about procrastination, a habit that just about everyone struggles with at some point. Now, putting off minor tasks like cleaning your room or responding to an email is one thing. But when it comes to important decisions, ones that could significantly impact your life, procrastination becomes a serious issue. The problem with delaying big decisions is that the longer you wait, the scarier they seem. It's like standing at the edge of a high dive. The more you hesitate, the more terrifying the jump becomes. But here's the kicker. While you're busy procrastinating, your mind is working overtime to come up with worst-case scenarios. This doesn't just increase your anxiety, it also drains your mental energy, making the decision even harder to face. And before you know it, you're trapped in a cycle of fear, anxiety, and indecision. So how do you break this cycle? Start by tackling decisions head-on, even if it feels uncomfortable. Break down the decision into smaller, manageable steps. This not only makes the process less daunting, but also builds momentum. The more you practice making decisions promptly, the more confident you'll become in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. 5. Constant complaining. We all need to vent. Sometimes it's healthy to express frustration and let off some steam. But there's a big difference between occasional venting and constant complaining. When you're always complaining, you're not just expressing dissatisfaction, you're training your brain to focus on the negative. And over time, This habit can actually rewire your brain, making negativity your default setting. Think about it. The more you complain, the more you reinforce a negative mindset. This doesn't just affect your mood, it affects your entire outlook on life. Constant complaining creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where you only see the bad in every situation, and as a result, you miss out on the good. Breaking this habit involves shifting your focus from problems to solutions. Instead of complaining about what's wrong, start thinking about how you can fix it. This doesn't mean ignoring issues or pretending everything's fine. It means empowering yourself to take action, rather than wallowing in negativity. Over time, this shift in mindset will not only make you feel better, but it will also make you more resilient in the face of challenges. 6. Unrealistic expectations. Having goals is great, it gives you something to strive for. But when your expectations are unrealistic, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and failure. Whether it's in your career, relationships, or personal life, expecting too much too soon can lead to frustration, resentment, and even burnout. Here's the thing. Unrealistic expectations aren't just about aiming too high, they're about setting timelines, goals, or standards that are impossible to meet. It's like trying to run a marathon. After only a week of training, you're bound to hit a wall and feel like a failure. And when you constantly fall short of these unrealistic expectations, it can take a serious toll on your self-esteem and mental health. The key to overcoming this habit is to set realistic, achievable goals. Break down big objectives into smaller, more manageable steps, and give yourself the time and space to grow. Remember, progress is not always linear, and setbacks are a natural part of the journey. By adjusting your expectations, you'll not only be kinder to yourself, but also more likely to achieve your goals in the long run. 7. Overthinking everything. Overthinking is like being stuck in a mental quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. We've all been there, replaying a conversation over and over in our heads, second-guessing a decision, or worrying about the future. But here's the harsh truth. Overthinking doesn't solve problems, it creates them. It amplifies anxiety, distorts reality, and leaves you mentally exhausted. Overthinking is often driven by a desire to control outcomes, but in reality, it leads to analysis paralysis. You spend so much time considering every possible scenario that you end up doing nothing at all. And ironically, this inaction can lead to the very outcomes you were trying to avoid in the first place. So how do you stop overthinking? Start by setting limits on your thinking time. Give yourself a specific amount of time to analyze a situation, and then make a decision and move on. Practice mindfulness techniques to stay present in the moment, rather than getting lost in a sea of what-ifs. And, most importantly, trust yourself. Remember that you don't need to have all the answers sometimes. Taking action is more important than making the perfect decision. 8. Taking everything personally. Not everything is about you really, but when you take every comment, every action, or every situation personally, you're setting yourself up for a world of hurt. This habit not only makes you overly sensitive, but it also distorts your perception of reality. You start seeing insults where none were intended, and you begin to believe that others are out to get you, even when they're not. Taking things personally is often a sign of low self-esteem. It's the belief that you're somehow not good enough, and that others are constantly judging you. But the truth is, most people are too busy with their own lives to be focused on yours. When you take things personally, you're giving others power over your emotions and your self-worth. To break this habit, you need to develop a thicker skin and a more balanced perspective. The next time you feel hurt by someone's words or actions, ask yourself if there might be another explanation, one that doesn't involve you being the target. Practice letting go of the need for approval from others and focus on building your own self-confidence. Remember, other people's opinions of you are just that, they're opinions. They don't define who you are. 9. Avoiding difficult conversations. We all hate conflict. It's uncomfortable, stressful, and sometimes downright scary. But avoiding difficult conversations doesn't solve problems, it makes them worse. When you avoid addressing issues, they don't just go away, they fester and grow, leading to resentment and even bigger problems down the line. Think of it like ignoring a leaky pipe. At first, it's just a small drip, annoying, but manageable. But over time, that drip can turn into a flood, causing significant damage that could have been prevented with a simple fix. The same goes for difficult conversations. By avoiding them, you're allowing small issues to become big ones, which can lead to broken relationships, missed opportunities, and a lot of unnecessary stress. The key to overcoming this habit is to face difficult conversations head-on. Approach them with empathy, openness, and a willingness to listen. It might be uncomfortable at first, but it's the only way to clear the air and move forward. Remember, conflict isn't always a bad thing. It can lead to growth, understanding, and stronger relationships if handled properly. So there you have it, 9 mental habits that are secretly sabotaging your life. But here's the silver lining. Every one of these habits can be changed. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight, but with awareness, effort, and a little bit of patience, you can break free from these chains and start living a life that's not just easier, but a whole lot more fulfilling. If you're ready to start making positive changes, take a moment to reflect on which of these habits resonates most with you. Which one do you struggle with the most? Once you've identified it, commit to working on it, one step at a time. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight, but every small step you take will bring you closer to the life you want to live. And hey, if you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, share it with someone who might need to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this. Let's start a conversation in the comments. What habit are you going to work on breaking first? See you in the next video.